Hey, so today's going to be a little bit of a different one. I'm putting something out there for everyone to use under a sort of request, or I guess not really a request, but I kind of volunteered to help out a buddy, an old school buddy, who's struggling through bits and pieces that he needs to get some sort of advice as far as basic foundational starting off type program. So as most of you are probably not aware of, I do run a coaching business online. It's relatively new as far as the programming and what I'm doing. It's been a long time coming. I've been told to do this for a long time, and it's finally coming to fruition. So for those of you who are interested, you can always just hit me up on the DMs and the IG. My IG is the same name as this channel. It is essentially, I focus on training people who used to be relatively athletic and have just sort of fallen off a little bit. All right. So a lot of my history and my background is athlete based, as I coach, a trainer, and an athlete myself across multiple different sports and disciplines. So I've learned a lot more than the average person would have by doing it, not by reading it off of a book, which is not something I recommend people go out and do too much. There is obviously some theory that needs to be had. I've been through those days and I'm not a big fan. I don't learn that way. I learn by doing. I can mimic, I can copy, I can see things that people can't normally typically see in movements of people and weaknesses across different parts of the body and the joints during those movements. And as you may have even heard, some trainers, if you're really digging in, sometimes some trainers can literally see through clothes. And I don't mean they can see your naked butt, but they can see the bones and the muscles working in the movements that you have, despite the clothes hiding that to the average person in the naked eye. So, in saying that, working with athletes or people who used to be relatively athletes, and I'm not talking about professional athletes, people who used to, just play football or play soccer or basketball back in the day, high school, maybe even college, and they've just sort of fallen off, and life got in the way, I guess, and they just need a bit of encouragement and motivation to get back on the horse, so to speak. This is kind of my specialty. This is where I focus a lot of my attention, and my work and my programming is based on people who have at least an idea, coordination, have at least an idea of diet and eating well. So not the absolute brand new beginner off of I've never trained before. I've done plenty of work with those people and had great results, but my skill set is a little bit more based on the athlete, the movement. I've changed and moved some exercises around, so to speak. Training and programming has been changed based on what would work best for someone who's into movement, athletically speaking. I'd still like to kick a soccer ball around, throw a football or a baseball with my kids, if I'm blessed enough one day to have them. And so I keep myself active in that manner so that I can still move around. I'm not expecting to be, I think I had something like a 40 to 45 inch jump back in my days. I ain't gonna be trying to hit that no more. I just don't have the structure for it. Plus I'm about 25, 50, 60 pounds heavier than I used to be back then. But anyway, long story short, this video is going out to a buddy, Jade, who's recently reached out for help. And I thought his scenario and his story was so perfect for a lot of people out there that I am specializing in working with, that I'd make this video specifically for him, but for everyone at the same time, versus doing a customized program and video just for him. This is for everyone. So anybody who's out there who used to be a little bit athletic or a lot athletic, up to you, and just sort of fell off and life got in the way and whatever, this one's going to be for you. Very basic, very simple. It's a phase 1. So I believe in 3 or 4 phases, depending on your goal, and then 3 or 4 levels. So you'd be looking at something like level 1 has phase 1, 2, 3, 4. Then level 2 has phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Some exercises and some movements for some people may be more difficult. So say no one really ever is at level 3, phase 2 of everything, you know. Some people might be sitting at still level 1, phase 4 of, say, leg exercises because they've got knee issues. They just can't quite progress as fast as they can with, say, upper overhead movements. And they might be at, you know, phase 1 of level 4, you know, really advanced. So everybody in their movement patterns and their exercise programming has different levels and different phases of those levels. And I don't believe you can sort of skip any levels. You might be able to skip through or past phases pretty quickly. Level 1, phase 1, phase 2, you might be able to do those pretty quick, where we just sort of run through them. In about a week, you're good to go. You might be on level 3 within a week or 2. Some people though, I had a client who was stuck on, I called it sort of level 1, phase 4, or level 2, phase 1. So right there next to each other. On some movements, the whole 6 years I was training them, they just couldn't progress past it, you know? For whatever reason, we'll not go into those details. In a way, I failed to progress them, but they also didn't want to progress there. They were stuck in their mindset of how things should be and what was supposed to be for them, and that's fine, that's cool. I am their trainer, so I do what they ask in a way. So this program will be just basically setting up 5 or 6 exercises that are just the basics for you to get started. 6 to 8 weeks, repeatedly, over and over. As an athlete or an ex-athlete or someone who used to train regularly enough, whether it just be gym back in the days, you understand progressive overload. We slowly overload the muscles, the nervous system, and the skeletal system in order to gain strength, flexibility, mobility, blah, blah, blah. It's not a come in, come all fast. That's why I struggle a little bit with the younger generation these days who just want everything instant and think that they can be He-Man within a week or a month. And I put on 20 pounds, so therefore I'm huge now. And bro, that's mostly that's mostly going to be water, but I ain't getting into no debates like that. That's not my purpose. So we'll get in there. I wanted to quickly talk about the first phase, the first exercise, which is a combination of this. This is exercise 1A, and behind me the stepper 1B. I won't be doing this stepper today. I already did it, and I'll be doing it again tomorrow. What I will do is run through really quickly with this. You'll see here that I'm leaning on the bar. There's a bar, my butt's on it, or my tailbone. And that's why I kind of sit down a little bit so I can get the right part of my butt on there so it doesn't hurt too much. And I push back on it, and that's what drives the belt to move. The hands aren't doing anything except for just stabilizing me. And I'm driving the belt itself. I don't know if you can see behind me, the body's fucking in the way, but the treadmill is not on. Okay, now in saying that, with all transparency, some of them are almost damn impossible to push. So I have found this one, which is why if you check back on any of my exercises, it's always on this treadmill, that is actually relatively movable. Some of the others are really tough. The only other one is right down the other end there, which I do sometimes, but not put on recordings in case somebody's already on this one. So you're pushing that through. Eventually you get strong enough that you can take longer strides. You can really push back, and then the toes hit the ground right behind your butt, and drag it across until your heel is the last part to hit the ground. So it literally is a toe to heel movement, toe to heel movement. All right, obviously backwards, but this helps with the knee strengthening. The anterior tibialis, or the shin muscle, connects in the front of your shin up above the shin muscle itself into the patella tendon, which is the tendon that goes over the top of the knee area and encompasses over and under the only floating bone in the body, the patella, the kneecap, and then turns into and wraps into the quadricep muscle and the quadricep area of the thigh. So this muscle is one of the ones, and the tendons and everything is one of the ones that doesn't get used or trained very often, and so it can lead to a lot of illnesses and pain because of the discrepancy between the strength of, say, the rear part of the leg which we would train and use a lot, and then the front part of the leg, which we don't often train, although we do use. So if you use it and don't train it, it can sometimes get a little tight. And when it's tight, just like a piece of rope, it ends up shorter because there's a bit of a knot in there. And if you pull on that, because you're used to using all of the rope, you'll sometimes get weaknesses on either side of that knot. And if you're going to keep pulling on it, either create more knots or a bigger knot in that same spot, you're going to eventually tear that knot, or that rope I should say, right at the edge of that knot. So we have to be careful of these type of things. So this training, phase 1, level 1, is going to be very basic, very simple, get you back off the couch, so to speak, or off of the office chair, and get you moving a little bit more. Walking backwards, great for the knees. I'm relatively fit, both strength and training in the gym, but cardiovascularly as well. Not a runner, so not that kind of endurance type fitness, but this gasses me out because it ain't as easy as you think. So 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes on this, which is roughly where I'm at now. And then we would switch across to the stepper. Now I'm not going to jump on that stepper, because I damn near don't like it at all. But I will tell you that as I step on that stepper, I'm going at a very slow speed, so that it feels like I'm having to climb the step with my whole body weight. Okay, going down, then I'm pushing myself up, then I'm pushing myself up, versus just tippy-toeing on it because it's going so fast. The speed has nothing to do with it. The speed will have something to do with this cardiovascular side of things, because that's not what we're doing it for. We're doing it because essentially it's almost like doing lunges. You put all your weight on one leg and you push that step down. You're putting all the weight on the ball of the foot behind the big toe, the ball of the foot behind the little toe, and the heel. So like a tripod. When you have that tripod on and there's enough weight distributed across all 3 parts, not necessarily leaning on either side, in or out, you're going to get the right muscles activating. The right muscles activating should be on the upper part of the butt muscle, near the hip, on the outside, and the inside part of the thigh, near the knee. Those two work together in unison, left and right, up and down, in front and back. So all 3 planes of movement are covered by those 2 muscles there. Obviously other muscles work too, but these are the 2 that you want to make sure are working. They're the ones that tend to go sleepy when we overuse, and they'd be very important for balance and control and stabilization. So these are the ones you want to make sure you're working when you're on the stepper, and that's actually what the stepper is for. Not to build anything cardiovascularly, although it does as a side effect. It's there to activate the right muscles, the ones that you want. I would do maybe, well, depending on the stepper, I mean, for this one, I'm literally on level 3, which is very low. I count the steps, like either 500 or 1,000 steps, which is somewhere around 8 minutes per 500, or 16 or 17 minutes for 1,000. So I'll do something like that almost every day. I've got a challenge with myself that I do it 4 days a week, 4 500 a day, so 4 500 a week, which is 2,000 steps a week. So if I do miss out, I find myself sometimes doing 1,000 just to make up for it. So I'm at least doing that 2,000 in a week that I promised myself I would. And that's just to keep the activation. And as you guys know, I do leg extension or quad extensions every single session, and calf raises, seated calf raises every single session. Not heavy, not trying to gain muscle, just keeping a little bit of tension on the muscles, working them every day, make sure they're activated. And that's because I don't have all the the cartilage and tendons in my knees that I'm supposed to. So I have to overuse those muscles around that knee to compensate for the instability of that knee due to the lack of those bits and pieces in there. Anyway, that's a lot of talking, a little bit of a warm up. I appreciate you guys' time. This is for you, Jade, and everybody else out there who's trying to get back off the couch and get going. I appreciate reaching out and getting me to get this program out to you guys. I hope you enjoy it, but I'll see you guys on the inside as soon as I'm done with this bad boy. Right, so the first of the exercises we're going to be doing today, we're going to do some simple stuff like 1 push exercise, 1 pull exercise, 1 press exercise, one moving exercise, and one core exercise. So this one's going to be the chin up. So there's obviously going to be the pulling movement. Now, if you are listening to this and you haven't done chin ups before, then obviously starting off with the lat pull down machine might be a smarter idea for you. This is what I would recommend if you've already done chin ups before. Just maybe using the band and strapping the band to help assist some of your body weight when you get going, if you can't quite do a pull up already. Now, if you can already do a pull up, one, maybe two, start there. I don't believe that, okay, the first couple of sessions might be pretty tough for you, but the gains you'll get from doing the actual chin up at a full capacity versus trying to, work your way in by lat pulling down. Even though they're the same typical movement on the arm, they're two different movements as far as what your body is used to. So if you've done chin ups before, your body recognizes chin ups, there's a high likelihood that you're going to get back into chin ups a lot quicker than you think. As I said, use the assistance of a band. Okay, you can get those online. Most gyms have them lying around anyway. Just wrap it over the top of the pole, the bar, and just put your foot in there, step on it. And I would recommend crossing your leg over the top just to make sure that it doesn't snap back on you. I've never seen it snap back on anyone unless they're trying to put it on in a weird ass way. But I'm going to assume here that you got some sort of coordination and common sense if you're a bit of an ex-athlete or ex-athlete minded, and you're going to be able to put those two things together. So with the pull up, pretty simple thing. The only thing I'm going to do is change up a little bit of what I used to do before. The general consensus with chin ups is usually to leave your legs hanging. I have an issue with that because I'm too tall, so always my feet hit the floor. So I've come up with a little variation of leaning and arching like a C, like backwards, and pulling my legs back to activate the glutes, right? That's what I've done in the past, but as a general chin up. Now, when it comes to athletic movement, it's a different story. We want to try and put things a little bit better together for everyone. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to teach and promote doing a chin up with your legs straight and in front of you. Now, if you want to keep them dead straight, hanging straight down on your plane when you're hanging, do elevate them slightly. Move them forward just at least a little bit. I'm having to move mine a little bit further in front because they're going to hit the floor because I am relatively tall, or this bar is relatively too short, whichever way you want to think of it. So don't think you have to copy the exact angle of my legs. As long as your legs are sort of forward a little bit, you'll be all good. I'm going to put mine a little bit more than normal just so they don't touch the floor. But essentially a chin up with the legs in front. All right, chin all the way up to the bar, keeping the form of your back and your muscles relatively in line. Now, with exactly as I said earlier, the legs sticking out too far, you'll see that's too far when you're feeling it like the bands kind of pull you back if you're using a band. So you'll know that you need to keep your feet a little bit more directly underneath you if you're using a band. But I do want to encourage you to lift them forward slightly. All that does is tuck the pelvis in, activates the glutes, activates the abs, keeps the glutes out of it as far as leaning back, which is not necessarily the best thing when it comes to stabilizing the core. So the weight of the legs is what we're pulling up with our arms, the body also, but the weight of the legs. And so we want that hanging weight, like as if it is a dumbbell, to be stabilized by the option of either the arm, if you're using a dumbbell, for example, say, or the core in this case, because the pulling is coming from the shoulder. So that's why we lean our legs forward. That is the pull. Pretty simple, pretty easy. I'm not gonna let you guys go through this. I'm gonna do one more set for the Instagram and record that. So I'll be doing 2 sets of everything. 1 set for you guys, 1 set for the Instagram. And that'll be the essential running through of the session. Not gonna be anything too crazy. It's just demonstration, a couple of tips, keeping things simple. If you've got questions anytime through this, pop in the comments down here, pop across to my Insta, whichever one works best for you. But that's the pull section. Right, so I'm here, so I might as well just stick it out, I guess. Today, it's gonna be a lunge for this one. I believe that you could do a leg press and get almost the same value when it comes to the press of the legs or the leg movement. But if you've been on the couch for a while or sitting at the office or just been too busy with life and unable to get to where you want to get to physically, I always tend to recommend doing lunges. Now, a lot of you guys are going to complain about having tight outer legs, glutes, and sort of knee pain. That's typical, that's normal. I'm still there, by the way. But the lunge allows the leg to work majority more muscles than it needs to on each leg, because it hasn't got that other stabilizing leg or the other leg to stabilize it. So it has to do more of the stabilizing itself. It doesn't have as much of the leg stabilizing it. So when you're doing a squat, you're basically just getting stronger at the up and down movement, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down. But you're not utilizing too much of those stabilizing muscles in your legs because the left leg stabilizes the right and so on. So in a lunge, popping that leg back the way I do lunges, you're only using about 5–10% of the back leg or the stabilizing leg for stability there, that you're going to be using almost about 80–90% at least minimum of the front leg, the working leg. So this is how I recommend to do lunges. This is why I recommend to do lunges, sorry. And this is how I suggest. So when it comes to stepping back, your lunge is always going to, let me adjust this, give me a sec. You need to be able to see my leg for this. So what I'll do is I'll do it this way. So what you want to do is make sure that when the leg goes back, that it's just on the top of the toe, right? You're not putting weight on the back of it either. This is where a majority of the issues come in. This is where people think that your body needs to be split between the back foot and the front foot. It doesn't. It needs to be leaning. I mean, your hips can be in the middle there somewhere, but your body weight coming from the upper part of your body needs to be leaning over the top of the knee and the hip, the heel. So that if there's only a little bit of weight on here, I should be able to take it off the ground without too much of a movement forward. If a lot of my weight is on my back foot when I do my lunges, not only is that going to tear a little bit of that patella tendon, but it's also going to make sure that my weight is distributed not across the front leg, which is what I want. I want the front leg to do the work. Think of this as doing single leg exercise. I'm doing a single left leg movement right now. The right leg is just there for stability, right? So I lean forward, and that way I can just shift my weight forward slightly to take the weight off because it's barely on there. And as I'm bowing down, I'm keeping that same plane, that same angle of my torso, whatever that is, 45 degrees, 30 degrees, whatever. And I'm going down until my knee just hits the floor, not on the floor as I'm doing now, but just before it hits the floor. And it's relatively in line with my back heel. If anything, maybe a little bit behind. An inch or two behind is fine. Just so happens to be, this is the position I'm in for this one. So I would go here, and I'm not going all the way down. If you want to touch just, you can, but don't rest on it. Don't take the weight off of that front working leg. Now, if I show you this way here, you'll see the front working leg has got that teardrop, that vastus medialis, that inner thigh muscle I was telling you about earlier. That's working. And I ain't going to show you my butt because my butt is working. I can feel it. I can tell it's kind of shaking already. But these two are the two that are working. If you don't feel them working, you can do what I'm doing here, which is lightly tapping them. If you lightly tap those 2 points, the brain is getting a signal of you tapping that muscle, right? That's how you can feel it. The brain's telling you something's tapping you down there, right? And as that signal, if you're trying to recruit that muscle without tapping it, can get confused. The brain's trying to send the signal down, sometimes gets a little lost, hasn't been used in a while. So if you send a signal up with tap, there's a chance that makes it easier for the signal coming down from the brain to find where to go, right? And that's where that activation will come from. You want to activate that, you want to activate this. So tap them. I do the same thing, not on this part, but here, when I'm doing my quad extensions, to make sure that I'm working this part. Now you'll see my development on those is much bigger than the rest of my thigh. Call it uneven if you like, great for you. I'm not trying to search for evenness. I'm not competitively bodybuilding or doing anything like that. I don't have issues too much on the outside, and I have a lot of issues with the inside. And that's why I need that vastus medialis, or that teardrop muscle, to be much more strong. And as a result of being stronger, then hey, happens to be a little bit more developed. Now you can see by the definition between the two that one is a little bit bigger than the other. Put 2 and 2 together there. I'll let you take a guess as to which one of my knees is worse than the other, or has had this issue longer than the other. Pretty self-explanatory. That's why that muscle is developing that way, because that's what I use it for, okay? So that's the lunge, that's the leg movement, all right? Obviously after the 10, I would pop back and do the other. I put my hands on my hips, but that's just to keep my shoulders back. You can put your hands behind, or you can put them out in front of you, up to you. But you'll see that the tripod of my foot, the heel, the toe, the ball of the big toe and the ball of the little toe are all three tripod connecting to the floor evenly. My back foot is not taking too much weight at all. The top of the toe is on there. I used to do this with clients. If I found that they were putting too much weight on the back foot, I would slide under there and put my hand underneath their toe. And so you can push on there. It's not a problem. It doesn't hurt me if you're only pushing 5–10%. But if it's starting to hurt me, that's how we know that you're putting too much weight on that back foot. It may take a little while to get used to. You may even need to hold on to something to start off. That's fine. But that's the movement, and that's where you want the movement to progress to slowly, but eventually. All right, so that's the leg section. Right, so done one warm-up set already of this weight. I'll do a second warm-up set of this weight and show you guys what I'm doing. I'd rather be able to talk you through the exercise during the movement. So I'm going to do that. That's not too much of a weight. The weight is not necessarily the most important part. It's the recruitment of the muscles that I explained earlier with the quads and the glutes and the lunge exercise. That is more important. The recruitment is what is going to work. So I want to make sure that you're recruiting the right muscles here. A lot of times people doing this bench press and chest press and whatever are doing them slightly, not necessarily incorrect, but you're not maximizing on what you could be doing. The activation is key. Now there's a couple of ways you can activate, and that's that neurological thing where you turn the brain on and the brain turns on the muscle and whatever. Most people don't have that connection, that muscle to mind connection. You can, if you already have that, you can sort of get to that back, which is cool. But what you also want to do is you can pre-stretch it. So by stretching a muscle first, you're kind of telling the brain that, hey, a little bit of action happening over here in this area, around here, and blood flow starts to go there, right? So what I do with these is I make sure that the first 3, 4, maybe 5 reps of a set, once I've warmed up the first set, are stretch or holds, right? So I'm going to be resting the bar on my chest. The microphone here, so I have to be careful, but I'll be resting the bar on my chest and completely letting go of the bar, so to speak. Now I'm not taking my hands off, but I'm letting go of the tension of the bar being in my palm. I'm just letting that go, just relaxing that a little bit so that essentially the bar is being held by my chest. Now make sure you do that with a weight that's you can hold on your chest. And I'm not asking you to do that with a big ass weight. I'm just telling you that you need to stretch that pre-stretch because your bar is used to hitting that chest bone, which is as deep as it'll ever go. For most people, that might be enough already because a lot of people don't go all the way down. Could be enough for a pre-stretch, but I'm used to that. I've always touched the bar to my chest. So I always want to pre-stretch it by stretching it even further, right? Which to me means I kind of got to let the bar go a little bit. And I'll only be doing that, like I said, for about half of the second set, all right? It's not what I do on a regular basis. That's just half of the second set. That's what I do that for, just have pre-stretch. Warm up, put some blood in the muscle with the first set. Second set, get that pre-stretch going. And in the second part of the second set, I'll just rep out a little bit more, making sure that the bar touches the chest. Then I would start to add a little bit more weight and start the actual working sets, maybe 2 or 3 working sets in there, depending on the style, or one big working set if I'm doing the Mike Metzger style training. So I'll be doing that. That's what you guys are about to see. I will talk you through it at the same time. And here we go. Okay. So I'm always going to make sure my eyes are directly under the bar to start with. Okay, and that's how I set my hands. My hands are going to be evenly spread. Now there's markings on the bar. All bars have some sort of marking so you can see and distribute your hand evenly from left to right. I've seen many people pull this up and have more weight leaning one side than the other. All of a sudden the bar starts leaning across, or their left arm's doing so much more work and they don't realize. So take the markings on the bar, make sure you're even. There's a little rigid to soft part here, so I'm going to put my thumb on the end of that. Same on this side. Now I know I'm relatively even across the bar, then I just make sure that's in the middle. So that's what this is here. Then I readjust, my eyes are under the bar. I'm pushing down to the ground with my feet to the point where you can see my hips are lifting, my butt's lifting off the bench. And that's how I lift the bar off. Once I've got the bar off, then I can set my butt down on the ground a little bit, even though it's just touching. Bend the elbows down nice and slow. Okay, the bar is going to be touching my chest here. This is the bit I'm talking about where I stretch. Then I push up, come down nice and controlled, get that bar to touch, pre-stretch and push. You're not seeing the pre-stretch, but trust me, it's happening. I can feel it. Touch, pre-stretch, push. All right, that's about 3. Again, stretch and push. 4, pre-stretch, and 5. All right. Watch the elbows. They're coming down at 45 to 60 degree angle and not 90 degrees. This is one of the biggest mistakes people can do, is putting their elbows down at 90 degrees. You don't want that. That means you're going to be putting all the weight into the shoulder itself and not into the chest. Okay? So as you're going down, you're bringing the bar down at sort of that degree there. Wherever's comfortable for you, everybody's different. Some people like it a little bit more narrow. Some people like it a little bit higher. But what you don't want is that 90 degree, which you see so often. And it's one of the biggest common mistakes that will lead to a shoulder injury almost every time. Okay? The easiest way is if you imagine laying the bar without any weights on it, lay the bar on your chest while you're laying down, take your hands off of it, and imagine you have to push that bar up in the air as hard as you can, as fast as you can, and as powerful as you can. If you imagine that and then go and start the action, you'll see your arms will be tucked in, because that's instinctively and naturally where your mind knows you are strongest. Your arms are not going to go into this position to push it further away. So you're disengaging all the stabilizing muscles in the shoulder girdle. Therefore, you can't use kinetic energy transfer from all the rest of your body to get more power. All right. So imagine that, and then you'll figure out roughly where the elbow position should be for you. That is the press exercise. Okay, it's a shoulder press. Shoulder press is pretty simple. Pressing the shoulders, obviously. There's a lot of variations of the shoulder press, and I think that some of the ones that are obviously on one end of the spectrum and the other one on the other end of the spectrum are going to be a little bit different and do different things. But for the majority of most of the shoulder exercise, shoulder press variations, I should say, are kind of in that center, in that middle part. You don't need to worry too much about different variations. Some people think that this one's more comfortable. Some people think that that's the reason why they got this size, shape, or whatever strength in their shoulder, possibly, maybe. But for us, we're just getting going. You don't want the elbows all the way at the back to be square. You want them forward in front of you slightly anyway, because that's how you would press something. The dumbbells are going to separate, obviously, the imaginary bar between essentially the bar that you would have to separate anyway. You can't do this with a shoulder press on a bar, because that bar is essentially running right through your skull. That makes no sense. So you kind of got to be in front of you anyway, right? So I use the same principles and tactics when it comes to dumbbells. I keep my elbows in front of me. Now, that's also more comfortable for me, and I have had a lot of issues in my shoulders in the past. Athletes normally will. So that's how I do mine. The twist here, on you. That's completely on what's comfortable with you and your wrists. And some people have got more stiff wrists from working with computers and mouse, whatever. Some people more on the tools. That's completely on you. You do what you need to do there. But for me, I keep it relatively there. I add a little bit of a twist sometimes just for comfort, but it's not anything other than just comfort. So just bear in mind with that. The shoulder press itself, I'm arching my back, so I'm keeping myself there. I don't tend to lean my head back too far because it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. You can even tell by the change of my voice there. My neck's just maybe a little too not flexible enough for that. That's just me. But it's on you. Press, coming down. A little bit of a twist if you need to, as long as it's comfortable. All right, just don't try and overstretch too much with the pulling back. Your elbows need to be back. This needs to be 90 degrees. That's actually not so important. Don't do it with poor, obviously, technique. You should have a rough idea of what good technique looks like. And if roughly you don't know what roughly good technique looks like, try it. And if it feels a bit rough, then that's rough technique. All right, pretty simple, common sense here. All right, press, and then down. You can go all the way up to lock. I don't, my lack of flexibility, but that's because I have a steel plate in my collarbone and really bad stuffed up rotator cuff on the other side. So both slightly limiting, and I get a little bit of sharp pain if I press too high and too straight from the screws that are still in the bar and my collarbone. So this is what I've adapted to doing. And this is how I do it. All the way down is the key at that angle to feel safe and strong. That downward part, the dumbbell is just touching my shoulders. You can see there, just touching my shoulder. I'm not letting it go all the way down here because now biceps are holding it and I'm pushing up. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Nothing complex about this one. There's not much I need to say apart from making sure that you stay safe. It is one of the more dangerous ones as far as being prone to having a little bit of an injury here and there. And if you do get a little bit of an injury in the shoulder, that can set your training back quite a bit because the shoulder is used, obviously, for a lot of things. So be careful with this one. Start light. Don't go into heavy weight with a shoulder press. And if you want to make it work a little bit, do it after the bench press and after the chin-ups. That way the shoulder joint's got a lot more blood in there. It's a lot more, I guess, resilient because it's going to have a little bit more of a working from the pulling and from the pushing, or the pressing, sorry. Then that means, oh no, it is the pushing, my bad. From the pulling and from the pushing. And then with the press, it should be pretty warmed up, should be quite ready. And because it's kind of fatigued a little bit from the other two movements, then you'll feel more weight in the shoulder than the actual weight you're pulling, which is a pretty good thing if you ask me. The resistance on the shoulder doesn't have to vary with the resistance on the dumbbell. You know, the shoulder can feel like this is 100 pounds, but it doesn't have to be 100 pounds. And if the shoulder feels like it's 100 pounds, then essentially the shoulder's lifting 100 pounds, all right? So that's the shoulder press, okay? So we've run through, we got the chin-ups, the lunges, the bench press, the shoulder press. I'm gonna run through now an ab exercise, which I call the wood chop. And if you're an athlete, I think this is or an ex-athlete or athletically minded, this is an exercise I think you should be concentrating a lot more of your ab work on. Because that involves rotation, coordination, and almost the use of the whole body whilst incorporating the abdominals, okay? And I'll give you a little tip on the other side. I'll do a little actual ab development type exercise, like for the six-pack after that as a little bonus. But that's why I said at the beginning 5 or 6. I wasn't sure if I was gonna pull that one out or not, but I think it's probably gonna be okay. Just bear in mind that this one is the second one is more of a exercise that I don't recommend you do as the only. You can add this one to the wood chop, okay? And then for me, there's 3 variations. I'll show you those 3 variations, but that is only added on top of, okay? It's not an instead of, okay? You already have a development or developing six-pack in there. If you used to be relatively athletic when you were young, play sport as a whole, you have six-pack muscles there. You just maybe don't have the body fat to show that. You have too much body fat, you can't show that. And they're not pronounced enough because they're not getting any activity. There's no air in the balloon, so to speak, but they're still there, okay? We all have muscles essentially there. Otherwise we'd be flopping all over the place. But you don't want to necessarily think about building them up so much. You want to lean down and then use them. They'll get back to where they're supposed to be, you know? I've never lost my six-pack, although you sometimes can't see it. And I was holding more body fat and you couldn't see the six-pack, but I never lost them. I could dig in there and I can feel that they're there. I can do the exercise and then know, well, I need to be using a six-pack for this exercise, and I clearly can do the exercise, so therefore I must have my six-pack there. It just means that you can't quite see it. I did a post earlier this morning on Instagram that says that the 2 parts to getting yourself in shape as far as being able to lose weight is simple, and that you understand that the number 1 thing is that your body is going to be putting on body fat due to what you eat. So if you reduce what you eat and watch what you eat, you'll stop your body putting on body fat. But you're not going to get rid of what's already there with diet. You're going to get rid of what your body's not going to be adding to with diet. But you need to get rid of what's already there by doing the work, doing the exercise. If that's a 20 to 30 minute walk in the evenings or in the mornings around the block, that's enough. That's actually enough to promote that weight loss or that fat loss. Okay, you don't have to go to a full-fledged gym workouts hardcore. You may, in a way, sort of lose body fat there, but you'll also gain a bit of more muscle tissue. So the scale on the weight on the scale, I should say, probably won't change as much as if you want. So if you're trying to lose actual scale weight versus body fat, then maybe working with heavy ass weights and increasing your protein intake isn't going to show that on the scale, although you'll start to see it in the mirror, and whoever's seeing you naked is going to start to notice that pretty soon too. Okay, so be aware of that, making sure that at least you understand that the diet will stop the glass from overfilling, but the exercise is what empties the glass out. Okay, so I'll see you guys at the ab section. Right, wood chop, table wood chop. Pretty simple exercise when it comes to seeing and looking at it, but a little bit more complex when it comes to breaking it down. Hopefully you guys can see everything I'm talking about. And I'm able to show you guys that the footwork is the most important part. So you want to stay relatively wide as if you're about to start a race, or as if you're about to understand a defender, you're about to play defense or something. You want to be sort of outside of shoulder width apart, ready to take on something, right? And in that position, you're going to be turning and rotating the toe, but coming from the hip. Okay, I don't want it to be just here. Right, the hip is rotating around, and as the hip rotates around, the toe follows. Okay, so I'm going from a wide, what would be a defensive stance in basketball, into almost like I'm about to sprint off over here type of movement. Right, these are the two positions here and here. Okay, that's the movement I'm going for. Right, the leg is stabilizing here, my weight is stable here. There's a little bit of a push off with this movement, as you'll see, because I'm pulling the weight from there. So there's a little bit of a push off, but the transfer of weight goes from pushing off here into stabilizing here. And that's the part there, the stabilization. That's why I said earlier, it's an ab exercise or a core exercise, but it's utilizing a lot of the body. Okay, so it goes from here, and it's one-sided. Okay, so I'm not going across here and trying to do the other side here. We'll be switching it over. I'll do it from this side so I can face you guys for the second side, but technically you can just flip across here and go this way. All right, so I'll be doing this side here. It's really tough to talk during this because there's a lot of core activation and core exercises, and I'm not making the weight light. Probably could just to explain, but I want it to be hard so you guys can see the actual full-fledged movement. It should be relatively tough. There is no right or wrong on the hands. I tend to go the hand that's closest, the far away hand under, the other hand on top, because it shortens the grip for me, and sometimes I have a length issue, so I just do it that way, and I go over the top. All right, now this is always going to be the bar, or the handle is always going to be in the center of my torso. It's always going to be 90 degrees from my body. Okay, it's always here like this. Okay, I'm not twisting it. You see a lot of people doing this. Is dangerous. This causes too much tension on the spine bone themselves. There are points in time where that can be useful, but for us, we're here for now, for today, it ain't. Okay, let me just adjust this here. Hold on a second. All right, so I put on a little bit more weight. It's going to help. So the bar stays in the center of my body. I'm twisted this way, just like the opposite of what I was saying before, but it's not under tension. There's no pressure for it, all right? So I'm going to pull the weight off of here. My heel is going to go down first as I start to open the hips. And as I start to open the hips, my shoulders are going to move. If my shoulders start moving, then guess what? I got to keep that bar at 90 degrees from my body. And 90 degrees from my body is here right now, and the bar ain't there. So that's when the movement must start to happen, okay? So as I'm moving, I'm doing the heel rotation on the right leg. The hips are following through, and then the toe rotation on the left leg, because then the hips are following through. That bar or this handle is staying 90 degrees from my body the whole time. And I don't know, 60, 70 centimeters, 80, 90% of a yard for those listening in America, away from my body, and I'm keeping that distance there. I'm not pulling it any closer and pushing it out. That's a different wood chop. It's a useful wood chop, but it's a different wood chop. This one, we're keeping that same distance away from the body all the way through, okay? Now, if this weight's got a little bit more weight on it than it should, I had to lessen the weight because I thought about what I just said and not being able to talk you guys through it. And I figured I needed to actually talk you guys through it because there was a little bit more to the exercise that I forgot to explain at the beginning. And that is this heel dropping to open to that position. I talked about the basketball position. You're kind of in a sprinter's position here. Then you're going into defensive stance. Then you're going to sprinter's position here. Obviously not with the hands, but with the body. So it kind of has that knock this way, right? And the hips are following. Okay, so I'll do one more set with some weight on it without talking, just so you guys can see. Powerful, out, control. Right, pretty simple, pretty basic when it comes to bringing back some of the muscles and the technique. The easy way to do this is to go here. All right, the pin's gone missing, so that sucks. Where's that gone? Because someone's taken off with a pin. No idea why anyone would want to take a pin home, but it'll be the same thing in reverse. Okay, pretty basic stuff. So that's that. What I will do here now is show you guys the other one that I was talking about, the other exercise I was talking about. And that is the bonus on top of, once you feel strong and buff and tough and stuff, then you go in and start adding this one, which is a toes to bar. First variation is the knee tuck. So that would be tucking the knees. And by tucking, it means that my pelvis is tucking, okay? I'm not just lifting my knees, I'm tucking. The next part is to bring it all the way so the knees are coming up and touching the elbow, all right? Not physically, literally, but up to that level. Then the third level is to kick the bar, all right? Toes, kick the bar. Hence the name, toes to bar, all right? The exercise. The most important part of this is the tuck, the pelvis tucking, okay? You want the pelvis to tuck so that you activate the lower part of the abdominals and the top part of the abdominals. Some people are working those top 4 to maybe 6 abs, but they're not working on the lower abdominals. There's 2 more under there. And shit, if you look at some people like, man, old school, I think like Rob Ritchie's, I think he had 2 more under there as well. It's crazy how much the development of this guy was. And there's a guy called Emmanuel Matty in Australia. If you ever seen this guy 10 years ago, whew, the guy had an 8-pack, 10-pack, like, unbelievable. But anyway, I'm gonna do a set of the 10 of the toes to bar. Haven't done them in a while, so I'm looking forward to that. That sucks. What you'll notice in there, I can't talk too much during the set, but what you'll notice there is that I'm coming up with a little bit of, not necessarily power, but I'm trying to get up there with a little bit of, emphasis. But on the way down, I'm controlling it. The controlling down is the key, okay? That's what's gonna give you the little shakes, and that's also what's gonna give you the cramp, and that's also what's gonna give you the I can't bend it backwards tomorrow feeling, right? Which we all, if you used to do any weight training, kind of love actually. Hate it and love it at the same time, but contrast is key. So they say, right, monkey? So, toes to bar, sets of 10. The grip doesn't have to be anything like, it doesn't have to be out here like this. I just do it so that I can fit inside. Because if I go here, yeah, I'm a bit narrow. And my hands are kind of just hanging over the edge of that curve. I don't know, I don't like it. So I'm gonna go somewhere in the middle there. Put my thumb right in this bend. And toes to bar, control down. If you see my feet touching at the ground, it's just to stop the swinging, not to create any momentum. Oh yeah, I'm feeling that one. Hey, if you can get those up first time and you still got that strength, good for you. You just hold on to a little bit of that stuff. I don't think I ever lost it. I think I was always able to do something like that. I think I was just from a little bit of gymnastics when I was young. But I like those ones where you can pop up and go all the way under and do a little tucks. I was always a bit of a kid on the playground growing up. And if you ask the majority of my friends today, I haven't really lost that little aspect of the kid on the playground. Unfortunately, it does not help in some aspects of life, but sure it should have been a bit of fun. But anyway, so that's the added extra. That's ab exercise B. Ab exercise A being the most important one. And like in most things, using common sense, you can't just skip A and go to B. So you can only use B if you do A first. So that's the ab exercise. The shoulder press exercise with dumbbells. the bench press with the bar on the bench, obviously. Lunges, you can do squats there. I don't have much technique with squats. Actually, I'll give you guys a bit of a bonus on this one. So let me adjust those. The squat technique I enjoy is one in movement, okay? I'm not a big fan of squats on their own. So I don't do squats on their own. That's just me. So what I'll do is I'll do them in movement and with other things. So if you don't want to do the lunges, or the lunges are hurting you, or you want a variation, then I recommend this one as a variation, or as like a B exercise for the legs. And as I said, there's no B without A first. So try the lunges, do the lunges. Maybe you're doing these workouts 2 or 3 times a week and you're rotating the A and the B with the abs and the A and the B with the legs amongst the other 3 exercises. The chin-up should always be there unless you're absolute beginner and you've never done a chin-up, then start on the lat pull down. Otherwise, if you have done a chin-up before, just start a chin-up with the band. That should always be there. The order is not necessarily, you know, gold or king. You don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, but this is a squat and row. Okay, I'm leaning backwards so my body weight is not being dragged forward by the bar. Lean back, sit down as deep as I can, get that flex and that stretch in the knees, keep my tailbone sticking out as much as I can, let the shoulders round forward, but without rounding my back. I don't want to round my back. I want to keep it relatively in line, but do allow the shoulder blades to move. That's important. So this is the variation of the lunges, all right? Do that in variation, or as well as, or hell, more than me, as well as if you want, go for it. They're all very good exercises. So that will conclude the very foundational basic program. This one, as I said, is out to a buddy called Jade who reached out and asked for some help. Congratulations, Harding. It's hard to ask for help. I know that from experience. So proud of you. Keep me posted. But this is for anyone and everyone who's just finally getting, you know, life sorted out and getting back into themselves. I am what I call self-calling a master, because you need 10,000 hours of anything to become a master. And I've definitely done 10,000 hours of this. So a master health investor, all right? This is not for anything other than to invest in my health. I believe the muscles, the skeletal system, the central nervous system, the brain, the muscles, the mind connection, these things physically are more important than anything else when it comes to longevity. Because no matter what little supplements I'm taking, if my body can't move, it's a waste of time. I do use supplementation and I have some practices that I do for that stuff, but I think the physical is right up there. Not, you know, first is second, whatever, right? Cognitive health is important too, so I'll do that as well. But that's the end of the video. I appreciate you guys hanging around. Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Leave some comments. Follow me on Instagram. There's constant stuff going up on there. I'm doing these once a week and I'm trying to do talking heads once a week too, so you get videos twice a week. I just quite haven't got that first one out. I'm too shy about it. I don't know why, but I'll crack that code and I'll get that done for you guys as soon as I can. So peace out. See you guys on the next one.